Here with Tom Holmoe. And Tom, Media Day's here. Does it feel real that, hey, we're on our way to the Big 12 officially?
Yeah, it's real. If anybody doesn't think so, just step in this venue and you know it's on.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any question that, man, it's Cowboy Stadium. And I'm a Niner, but I'm impressed by how the Jones family and the Cowboys have opened this up. Come into our backyard or our living room for the Big 12. Great.
Now, obviously, you've shepherded BYU from the Mountain West to independence and now ushering them into the Big 12 era. Can you talk a little bit to just how much work you've had to do in all those?
I don't really look at it as, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. I think that by nature of being the athletic director at BYU, and the 3 or 4 previous ADs before me, they've all been in the same business. We're trying to get into a P5, and they chipped away. And I think that when I inherited this job, which was passed on from them, that was one of the responsibilities is, try. And I had a little bit of a head start because those guys had given me that head start. I've said so many times that 40 years, Lavelle, and you can go back to Christian Merkosich and Stan Watts and this great, incredible brand of BYU athletics. But Lavelle really is the one. And so I look back, and if someone's going to say, hey, Tom, people say thanks for helping, this is great. I say, thank you, it's just great to be part of it. I play a role in it like Jimmer played a role in it. Danny Ainge played a role in it. Kenneth Rooks played a role. Well, we were already in.
But still,
if you could go through any of them.
And
it's just like we've all been fighting for this for a long time, and this is the right time. The planets and stars aligned, and I'm happy.
Now, obviously, I had a chance to talk with Rondo Felberg recently, and he talked about that. He's like, we've been kind of building towards this for 30 years, obviously, because he did in the late 90s and everything, but he's talked about, he's like, this is kind of the fulfillment of years and decades-long work. Do you have that same sentiment?
Yeah. I mean, at our celebration, we had a dinner for our department employees, and I invited Val and Rondo because I know those two guys, and we would have brought Coach Tuckett if he hadn't passed. But I know those guys, and I know the efforts that they made, so I didn't want to discount the fact that their contributions. And and when they celebrated it just as hard as I did, so I know how much it felt for them to be part of it, and they are a big part of it.
Now, we talked with you during that celebration. You said that football is the driver of all of this, obviously, and this is Big 12 Football Media Day. What do you think Kalani Sitake has done the best in preparing for this upcoming season?
The culture of the team. Kalani's strength is he's a people person, and he just is able to get players to perform. And you've looked at when he came in and inherited the team, it's changed. There's been some highs and there's been some lows, but the last couple of years, especially the last 2, we've been able to do some things with some infusion of money, where where he had to make some really important decisions on personnel and who we can add and what kind of people we need in what areas. There's a few jobs that were new, but it wasn't so much about the job as much as about the person fulfilling that job. I think that's his strength. But he also is, he's a fan, and he talks about being a BYU fan before he's a BYU player. So I think he relates so well to every fan in Big Cougar Nation, and I think they relate really well to him. So when you are trying to build a brand, which we've been trying to build for 40 years, he's great for the brand, and I love that part of it. Those are some of the top, but he's got a lot of skills and talents that lend so much to BYU.
He's assembled a really good staff, and 2 of the guys in particular, Aaron Roderick as well as Jay Hill, who are his coordinators, went with him. We were at Utah all together when they went through the transition from the Mountain West to the Pac-12. Has that been a help to have those guys have had that experience making that transition at all?
Yeah, I think that Kalani and the previous staff had some wins. They had some good successes, but I think that he had to make some hard decisions about moving forward under different circumstances. This is a whole new ball game, going from independence to Big 12. The schedule's different. The brands and the programs are stronger. We played some really good big-time teams in independence, but we also had some softer teams on the schedule. So he realized that this team had to kind of rebuild, not from the bottom up. There's a great foundation by Lavelle and Gary and Bronco and Kalani where we're ready for this. Make no mistake about it, we're ready, but it's going to be different. And we're going to have to make transitions. And we studied University of Utah when they made that change to the Pac-12. We were able to look at that and see some of the things that they did right and some of the things they would have done differently. But they made that transition effectively well in a short amount of time.
Now, this might sound facetious, but how much simpler is your life not having to schedule 12 games every year?
I think it's the question of the year. Everybody asks me, and I don't really even think about it once.
Okay.
I just think that was the task when we went independent. That was going to be the thing. So, up in my to-do list every day was schedule, and it's not on my to-do list anymore. Yeah. So there's other things that have taken its place. So it's not like I'm, on a little fiesta right now. It's more like what's at the top of mind right now is different than it was, during scheduling or COVID or whatever it might be.
Well, I also wanted to ask you, in terms of kind of next steps for you guys, what's on your docket here?
Well, I think certainly the transition is important. You don't want to run too fast. We've made a lot of strategic decisions, and now we have to monitor them because I'm under the belief that we're going to have to change some of those directions, and we will not get everything right in that what we've prepared for. So I think that we're walking before we run. We've made great preparation. We've spent a lot of great effort and energy in our preparations, but monitoring that and seeing what's right and keep going, double down, and then make a U-turn and take another road on what we may have missed on.
Well, that's what I also was going to ask you in terms of there's going to be some feeling out process here, it feels like, for you guys. Like, as you said, sometimes you may try something, it doesn't work, you go back to the drawing board. Is that kind of the mentality as you guys get ready to fully make the transition?
Certainly. But I don't think that we've had to put all our eggs in one risky business. It's not my style, it's not our culture of our athletic department to take dramatic risks. But we have strategies that we all confer on. Kalani and I, being together now for this long amount of time, every year it's a little bit more firmer and firmer on I knowing how he thinks, and he knows how I think. So I think our work and efforts in the years past, kind of up and down and changes and stuff, are just built for today and the future.
Speaking of the other sports, basketball, on the Olympic sports, is there going to be certain sports you feel like will have a tougher transition than others, or do you feel like it's across the board, everybody's going to have their work cut out for them?
Well, I think everyone will have to change and adapt, make no mistake about it. But I think by nature of just the overall strength of some Big 12 sponsored sports, like basketball. I mean, it's the best conference in the country, and that'll be a challenge for Coach Pope and his staff, but I feel like we're going to be competitive. But I think that if you look at some of the other sports, it depends on how the Big 12 is at this time. Some of our teams are really, really good, and it might take them a while to get a championship, as opposed to some that are going to transition, and it might not look good right away, but being in the Big 12 is going to help with recruiting, exposure, access, all those things that are important to our future.
Last thing for me, how exciting is this for you personally to be here and celebrating the Big 12?
I'm super excited because, like, being here today, I represent Cougar Nation. So does Kalani, so do our 5 players, so does Cosmo and the cheerleaders. If you're here representing BYU, if you're here on behalf of BYU, you represent everybody. And what I'm trying to tell everybody today is we're trying to be a great partner in the Big 12. And we just don't want to come in and go, okay, now we're going to go do our thing. BYU is a strange school. We're going to be a great partner. and we're going to do everything we can to make the Big 12 stronger. And that's our focus of attention. We'll focus on our teams, but we have to make sure that everybody grows together if we want to be the best conference in America.
Well, Tom, cannot thank you enough for taking some time, and best of luck moving
forward.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.